Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and before I get into today's ballsy segment around Derek Carr, I got to give some major love to today's sponsor, Manscaped. If anybody out there wants to make sure that their balls are looking as great as they possibly can, go to manscaped.com, use code Raiders. That's going to get you 20% off and free shipping on the best male grooming products. So the show today is I am going to be reacting to the latest article that was released by ESPN's Paul Gutierrez, because if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, I've done this show for a very long time, and the article that Paul released today was probably one of my favorites that I have ever read. So what you're going to see is me breaking it down from start to finish. The title of this article was, "Which Road Do the Raiders Take with Derek Carr? The quarterback's own words may portend a path." Gutierrez thinks that there are three paths, and if you've watched this show for long enough, you'll know that I have also said there are three paths that the Raiders can take, and we'll break down every single one, why it makes sense and why it doesn't. So here's your opportunity to go down in the comments section, and if you bleed silver and black, if you're a Raiders fan, if you're loyal to the Shield, you will answer this question, because this is a very important question. I want you to pick one. Would you trade Derek Carr, type T? Would you extend Derek Carr, type E? Or would you make Carr play at $19.9 million? I want you to go ahead and type P. Now, Paul Gutierrez starts the whole article off with this quote here. So which one do they take? Time will tell. Which one should they take? Depends upon your allegiance and, well, common sense. But if you were to take Carr at his word, he always tells reporters he's telling them the truth in media conferences, right? The road should not be long or winding. So take a walk with us down each path with us. So before we get into every single one of Gutierrez's paths, I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to turn on those notifications, because if the Raiders extend Carr, if the Raiders decide to continue to go with Carr as their quarterback but pay him at 19.9, if they decide to trade him, we're going to be breaking it all down for you. So hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and let's get to 109,000 subs. Now remember, this is what Derek Carr's exact words were. My goal when I got here was to give everything I have to this organization. Let our fans know that I'm going to give that all I have. Will always continue to do that on season, off season, and whether the situation is great or not, that's okay. There's still more, and I want to do it here. I don't want to do it anywhere else. I've said it over and over again. I'd probably quit football if I had to play for somebody else. I'm a Raider for my entire life, and I'm going to root for one team for the rest of my life, and it's the Raiders. I just feel so strong in my heart. I don't need a perfect situation. I believe that. I don't need a perfect situation to make things right. So here's the three roads that you can do for the Raiders. The first one is you can play him at $19.9 million. Just guarantee it. Because the one thing that I always hear people say is, well, maybe he doesn't want to play at 19.9 because he doesn't have any guaranteed money. Cool. I'm more than happy to guarantee Derek Carr the 19.9. Why? It doesn't impact the salary cap. So here's my next question. Is Derek Carr a man of his word? I believe that he's a man of his word. Do you guys think he's a man of his word? Because if he is, then a lot of this stuff that I'm about to talk about is going to ring some bells in your head. I want you to type Y for yes, or you can go ahead and type N for no. If you're saying, yes, Mitch, I think Derek Carr is a man of his word, awesome. So then he would play at $19.9 million. Why? It's the best for the Raiders overall, and he only wants to play for his team. Then you can guarantee him the 19.9. I don't really care if you do. My only point has been I want him to play at that value because it helps the Raiders overall. And then one of the things Gutierrez throws out there that I absolutely love as well is, what happens if you sit down with DC and you're like, all right, if you guarantee us that you'll play at 19.9, it's not going to be in writing, but we guarantee you that we're going to franchise tag you next season in 2023 for $30+ million. That would make me extremely happy. And why? Because it's still a good value for your overall quarterback. So guarantee him his money this year, doesn't impact the salary, and then tell him, guess what? We will franchise tag you in 2023. Before we continue to break more things down, I got to give some love to Manscaped because they just released some brand new products. And remember, if you go to manscaped.com, you're going to get 20% off and free shipping with promo code Raiders. Now, what you guys see over here is usually it's $49.99, but you can get these products for $39.99. It's the Ultra premium package. I mean, this thing is awesome. It takes care of you from your head all the way down to your toe, whether you need the lip balm, whether you need the deodorant, the shampoo, the body wash, I mean, they have all these amazing products. So from the moment you step in the shower until the moment you come out, you're going to be smelling just absolutely fantastic. It's manscaped.com, code Raiders. Here's the other thing you have to consider. If the Raiders go ahead and they extend Derek Carr, you might not be able to extend Maxx Crosby. You might not be able to extend Hunter Renfrow. I believe that you should. Yannick Ngakoue's got 1 year left on his deal. And I understand that Darren Waller has 2 years left, but there are legitimate reports that if Waller doesn't get a new contract extension because of his new agent, he might not want to play this year. So what happens if Carr takes that deal and then you lose some of these players? Because that's a realistic possibility. So, yes, make a play at the $19.9 million, then go out and you can address some of those other needs there, because I know people are going to freak out if Crosby decides to go somewhere else, if Renfrow, if Waller, if you lose those guys because you decided to give Carr a contract, then people are going to get upset. Let's go to some more quotes here from Paul Gutierrez. Remember what happened the last time the Raiders put star edge rusher on the back burner after taking care of Carr, Gabe Jackson, Justin Ellis, and Seth Roberts? As Raider owner Mark Davis told ESPN.com at the time, they figured Khalil Mack would honor his contract and play under the $13+ million fifth-year option in 2018. Here's my take on this. Why shouldn't Mack have to honor his contract? And people were like, oh, make Mack show up. Mack should play. Mack should play. Where's that energy? Where's that enthusiasm? Why does Khalil Mack have to do that, who arguably was the best defensive player in the National Football League at the time, and yet it's okay for Derek not to do it? I could make the argument that Khalil Mack was a more important player at that time than Derek Carr. It might be a little bit far-fetched, but why does Khalil have to do it and Carr doesn't? Paul is also going to continue on saying Carr honoring his deal while getting guaranteed money in the process gives the team financial flexibility to address other needs, and it gives both Carr and the new regime a season to acclimate to each other without jumping into something that might not work long-term from either party. Because what if Carr's skill set doesn't mesh with McDaniel's system? This is something I mentioned yesterday, and vice versa. The quarterback market and money will still be there at the end of Carr's current deal, but it's not about money, right? So here's my one-word reaction, or you guys can give me yours. If the Raiders guarantee his $19.9 million in 2022, what would be your one-word reaction to that? Let me know down in the comments section, because my one-word reaction would be smart. I like Derek Carr, but I do not understand why there's certain Raider fans I feel like that root for DC more than they root for the Raiders. That's what really drives me nuts. This is the smartest path for the Raiders to win football games, because if you go out and pay DC too much, the Raiders are missing way too many other players at important positions. Right tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, defensive tackle, cornerback. And if you put too much on DC, you're not going to be able to build a full roster, and then you're going to have people whining, oh, Carr doesn't have the people around him. Let's go to the next thing that the Raiders can do. They can extend him right away. Absolutely an option. And this is what Gutierrez had to say on the idea of extending Derek Carr. Figures as high as $40 million per season were paid about last week, and then nothing. Carr fans insist he is worth every penny. That has led Las Vegas to the playoffs last season with an inordinate amount of adversity, and has put up numbers despite having issues on the offensive line or at receiver. That he took a team-friendly deal in 2017 to stay with the Raiders, except it was the richest contract in NFL history at the time. Still, whether he deserves it or not is not the point here. Extending Carr shows a commitment from McDaniels and Ziegler, and yes, Davis, that they are ones willing to go down with the ship, so to speak, or ride said ship to parts unknown, hopefully for them, to a title. Here's my first thing. I get that a lot of people don't want to agree with this, but Carr's first contract was not worth it. When you are made the highest paid player in any sport, the goal is that you can carry a team. If I was Mark Davis and I invested all that money into DC, I'm sorry, I'd be pissed about it. I'm not saying it's all Derek Carr's fault. That's not what I'm saying. He has dealt with a lot of shit, and in fact, probably more shit than anybody ever has in that 8-year span. However, you once made him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. You have 0 playoff wins to show for it. When you are made the highest player, your goal is to carry the team. And I'm sorry, DC has not done that. So here's my next statement, or question. Do you believe Carr is a top 10 quarterback? Because all of this is going to tie into with each other. Type 10 for yes. Type 0 for no. If you've watched the show for long enough, you'll know that I do not believe Carr's a top 10 quarterback. He's in like that 12-13 range, but I'm not going to go ahead and type 10. If you are saying, yes, Mitch, he absolutely is a top 10 quarterback, it's okay. The going out and extending him for $35 million a year, it's reasonable. Why? That's the market. If Derek was a free agent, he would easily get $30 to $35 million. He might even get $40 million, but he's not a free agent. The Raiders do not have to extend him. And if you do go out and you pay him a lot of money, like $40 million, I think you're going to go ahead and get mad at yourself. Just because Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, all these other quarterbacks got it, why do the Raiders have to do it? Learn from your mistakes. Don't let history repeat itself, right? We're literally learning that right now as the world is going on with everything Russia and Ukraine. Do not let history repeat itself. Here's also what Paul Gutierrez had to say on the whole idea of extending him. A big debate on social media is whether Carr is a top 10 quarterback, and if so, he deserves to be paid as such. Fair enough, but such a commitment would essentially be like buying a house sight unseen, given no one still knows how Carr, who turns 31 on March 28th, fits into McDaniels' offense. An extension paying Carr between $30 to $35 million per season would seemingly be more palatable. So all I'm saying is this. I could not agree more with Paul here because we do not know if Derek's going to be a good fit. So let him play at the $19.9 million. If it ends up working out, okay, you guaranteed him that contract. He's already made $125 million. I find it hilarious that people are like, oh no, Carr doesn't want to play for 19.9. It's $19.9 million. Then you reward him next year, you franchise tag him at 30, and you continue to try to build and win a title. I know I'm really animated, but the reason why I'm animated is because I love this team. And if you love this team, remember, guys, you can always hit me up on Instagram. You can always hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365, and I also want to make sure that you guys know I'm going to give major flowers to Paul Gutierrez for this article. So please, if you do follow me, make sure you interact with me. Make sure you send Paul some love. Here's the final thing that Paul mentions you can do. You can trade Derek Carr for picks. Now, this one's not going to be a popular option. Why? Because I know DC's loyal, or DC's one of the favorite players here amongst the fans. But here's my question. Would you trade Derek Carr for 2 first-round picks? I want you to go ahead and type T for trade, or I want you to type P for pass. T for trade, P for pass, Carr for 2 first-round picks. My answer to this would be yes. If he refuses to play at $19.9 million, I would do this. Why? I believe the Raiders are doing themselves a disservice by paying Carr over $35 to $40 million a year. I believe with the amount of holes that this team has on the offense and defensive side of the football, by giving DC that type of money, you put yourself in a worse situation. I would rather than either go to the free agent market or go ahead and draft a quarterback. That's how strongly I believe. However, I do want Derek as the quarterback, and if he's a man of his word, he would play at $19.9 million. Here's the other issue, though, obviously, with trading, and I made this point yesterday, late last night, because I couldn't go to sleep. First-round picks for the Raiders have basically been like Schrute Bucks or, I don't know, like a Stanley Nickel, right? Cleveland Ferrell, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram, Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett, and then Alex Leatherwood. Your last 6 first-round picks, I can honestly sit up here and say, I don't really know if any single one has been worth a 6th-round pick. Cleveland Ferrell, absolute bust. It's probably been one of the biggest busts that we've seen in the last 3 years. Jacobs has been good, but running back is the easiest position to go ahead and replace. Abram, bust. I mean, Henry Ruggs, he ain't in the NFL anymore. He was trending in the right direction, not in the NFL anymore. Damon Arnett, not in the NFL anymore. I believe Alex Leatherwood has a path very similar to what Colton Miller had, where he might have struggled as a rookie, gets better in year 2. Hopefully he gets better in year 3, but you honestly can't say the last 6-round picks have been worth it. If you do, you're simply just biased. So here was the trade that Paul Gutierrez threw out there. And now what he mentions in the article is essentially, since Paul's the writer for, the Raiders at ESPN, he started talking to all the other writers at ESPN, and the trade that he was able to come to that essentially was accepted by the other team's writer was this one. The Raiders received the 11th overall pick from the Washington Commanders and a conditional 2023 4th-round pick. Now, that conditional 2023 4th-round pick would turn into a 2nd-round pick in 2023 if the Commanders make the playoffs. And for everyone out there that believes Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback, Derek Carr on the Commanders, it should happen, right? Heck, I had some bozo on Twitter said that the Commanders would give Derek Carr $50 million a year. If you don't believe me, please go ahead and look at it. This is also what Paul said, because I've always said this. if you make a trade for Derek Carr, you better have a plan B. Now, usually, I try to stay away from plan B, but in this case, you have to know what your plan is going forward, right? Paul Gutierrez said this: if you trade Derek Carr in that scenario, you go ahead, you bring back Marcus Mariota on a cheap contract, and then you draft Matt Corral at number 11. Out of all the quarterbacks in this year's draft, Matt Corral would be the guy that I would pick if I had to pick a quarterback. I would also be interested in Malik Willis. But then also going out and signing Marcus Mariota, would you be more confident in being able to have Mariota, Matt Corral, adding a lot more talent in free agency, adding more talent, let's say extending Waller, Maxx Crosby, Hunter Renfrow? I mean, we say it's a team sport, right? Well, let's start acting like it's a team sport, and it's not the Las Vegas Derek Carrs. Here's also what Paul Gutierrez had to say. I know, a lot of quotes. Of course, that's all easier said than done, especially since you'd hope the Raiders would have a plan in place if they did move on from Carr. With the Raiders going a decidedly different Patriot way in the coaching staff and front office, here's what's really going to make people interested. There are at least 3 quarterbacks who know McDaniel's system that could be on the market soon and would cost less than $40 million per season. Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady, and Brian Hoyer. But that's a different story for a different day. I do not see Tom Brady coming in, but Jimmy Garoppolo at 24.2, who knows the system, who has a lot more playoff experience than Derek Carr. I would rather pay Jimmy Garoppolo $24.2 million than paying Derek Carr $40 million a year. It's just simple as that. And it's just because I believe in what McDaniels is doing. And if you believe in what McDaniels could do, then you would agree with that statement. Now, before I leave today, again, major shout out to Paul Gutierrez. I have covered this team for a very long time, and I don't find many articles that I'm like, wow, I'm going to dedicate an entire show to it. But I personally think that Paul hit the nail on the head. And nowhere in that article does it rip on Derek Carr. Nowhere in that article does it say that Paul doesn't like Derek. All Paul did was give his honest opinion, and what he did was try to put the Raiders in the best situation going forward. At the end of the day, if you say just win, baby, and if your goal is to win a title, extending Derek Carr for over $40 million a year is not the way to do it. The way to do it is paying him $19.9 million this year, guaranteeing that money. If that's what he wants is guaranteed dollars, then if you want to franchise tag him at the end, and if none of that happens because Derek's not a man of his word and he says, no, I want money for myself, I don't care about y'all, then you trade him for at least 1 first-round pick. I personally would want 2 first-round picks. Just know that, y'all, I love you. A lot of energy in today's show. I can't wait to see what the comments are like. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Much love to the nation.